There's a quiet lie sitting at the center of retirement planning. It doesn't yell, it doesn't sound reckless. It usually sounds responsible, careful, even smart. And the lie is this: if you can just hit one big savings number, everything will somehow be fine. Now listen, that idea is powerful because it feels clean. It gives you a target, it gives you something to chase, but it also quietly pulls your attention away from the thing that matters most when paychecks stop and real life begins. The real question isn't how big your nest egg looks on paper. It's how dependable your income will feel month after month when the market drops, prices creep up, and your life keeps moving. That is where confidence lives, not in the fantasy of a perfect number. And that matters most in a period almost nobody talks about enough. The first 3 years after you retire. That short stretch can quietly shape the next 20 or 30 years of your life. Not because everything falls apart overnight, but because small decisions made there can either build confidence or erode it. One quick thing before we dive in: if you're not subscribed, hit that button now. I think you'll want to stick around. Think of your retirement income like the foundation of a house. The foundation is not flashy. Nobody invites friends over to admire it. But when the wind shows up, when the rain hits, when the seasons change, that hidden structure is what keeps everything standing. Your savings are more like the furniture. Important, yes. Useful, absolutely. But furniture does not hold the house up. If the foundation is weak, beautiful furniture won't make you feel safe. That's how a lot of people quietly misunderstand retirement. The first 3 years are dangerous because this is when your habits collide with reality. On paper, retirement can look simple. You stop working, you start drawing income, you enjoy your freedom. But real retirement is never that smooth in the beginning. This is when you figure out what you actually spend. This is when you learn whether your Social Security choice feels right. This is when inflation nudges your grocery bill higher. This is when the market can drop at the exact moment you start taking money out. And if nobody prepared you for that, you may think something is wrong with you. You may assume you failed. You may look at your numbers and quietly panic. But often the problem is not that you're doomed. The problem is that you were taught to ask the wrong question. I want you to think about Karen and Linda. Both are 67. Both worked hard for decades. Both wanted retirement to feel like a release, not another source of stress. But when you look at them from the outside, you'd probably guess the wrong person is secure. Karen retired from a public school job. She has a modest pension, Social Security, and about $210,000 in savings. She lives in a paid-off house. Her car is older. Her life looks plain from the outside. Nothing about her retirement screams success. Linda spent years in corporate management. She has $910,000 saved in a mix of retirement accounts and brokerage money. She lives in a nice city apartment. She still carries some housing costs. Her lifestyle looks polished. Her numbers, at first glance, seem far more impressive. But here's what you don't see when you glance at the statements. Karen sleeps well. Linda doesn't. Karen knows that most of her basic bills are covered before she even touches savings. Linda knows she has more money, but she also knows more of her future depends on the market behaving itself. It's not about who has more saved. It's about who has more certainty. Karen's pension lands each month. Her Social Security lands each month. Her property taxes still exist. Her utilities still show up. Her food still costs more than it used to. But her floor is sturdy. She is not rich, but she is grounded. Linda has options, and options sound wonderful until they become pressure. How much can she safely withdraw? What happens if the market falls 15% next year? Should she spend less now? Should she wait on travel? Should she help her daughter with that emergency? That is the quiet weight nobody talks about enough. 2 retirees can wake up with totally different balances and still feel the exact opposite of what the world expects. One looks behind, but feels okay. One looks ahead on paper, but feels one bad year away from trouble. Here's a question. If you had to choose between more money or more certainty, which would it be? Keep that in your head as we go. Now let's talk about why those first 3 years matter so much. Imagine stepping onto a frozen lake. The ice may hold, it may even be thick, but the first few steps are the ones that teach you how it really feels beneath your feet. Retirement works the same way. In those opening years, you are testing your spending, your emotions, your withdrawal strategy, your health costs, your marriage, your patience, and your tolerance for uncertainty. Everything gets clearer very fast, and clarity can be uncomfortable before it becomes empowering. A lot of people underestimate expenses in this period, not by being foolish, just by being human. Before retirement, you think in broad categories: gas, food, insurance, fun. But when work ends, new patterns quietly show up. Maybe you drive less, but your medical costs rise. Maybe you eat out more because every day feels like Saturday. Maybe you travel the first year because you've waited forever. Maybe you help grandkids more. Maybe your house suddenly needs the repairs you postponed while you were busy. Inflation is like an ice cube in the sun. It doesn't vanish in one dramatic moment. It quietly melts. It nudges. It silently erodes what used to feel adequate. $100 still looks like $100, but it buys less, covers less, and stretches less every single year. That matters because the first 3 years shape your spending habits before inflation fully reveals itself. If you retire thinking your budget has plenty of room and then prices keep creeping, the stress doesn't arrive all at once. It slowly enters the room and stays there. This is also where Social Security decisions become very real. People love to debate 62, full retirement age, or 70 like it's some kind of trivia question. But the real question isn't what's the mathematically perfect age on a spreadsheet. It's what choice best supports your life, your health, and your need for certainty. If you claim at 62, your check is smaller for life. If you wait until full retirement age, the reduction disappears. If you wait until 70, the monthly benefit is larger. That bigger check can be powerful, especially for people who expect a long life or want stronger survivor protection for a spouse. But waiting is not free. You are using time as the price. And time is not a small thing. If you delay too long and the years you expected never arrive, that larger benefit may look smarter on paper than it feels in real life. This is why blanket advice quietly misleads people. Think of Social Security like a faucet connected to a pipe you've been filling your whole working life. Every paycheck added pressure. Every year of taxes added water behind the wall. When you turn, the handle matters. The flow changes, the monthly stream changes, and if you wait too long, some of that water may never reach you. No refunds, no second chances. That doesn't mean you should always claim early. It means you should stop treating the decision like a contest. The goal is not to win a spreadsheet argument. The goal is to build an income floor that helps you breathe easier. Quick question. Have you ever felt guilty about spending money in retirement? That question matters more than people realize. Because if your retirement plan is built mostly on savings, every purchase can feel like you're tearing away part of your future. Even small things, dinner out, a weekend trip, a gift for a grandchild, a repair you didn't expect. When income is strong, spending feels different, not careless, just calmer. You're using cash flow, not constantly digging into a pile and hoping it lasts. That emotional difference is huge. Numbers matter, but how you feel about those numbers matters just as much. And that brings us to one of the biggest dangers in the first 3 years: sequence of returns risk. I know that phrase sounds technical, so let me make it simple. It means bad market timing hurts more when you are withdrawing money early in retirement than it does later. Picture 2 gardens. Both have the same number of plants, but one gets hit by a hard frost right after planting. The other gets hit years later after roots are deep. The same weather event creates totally different damage because timing changes everything. That is what happens when the market drops in your first years of retirement. If you are pulling money out while your investments are down, you are not just waiting for recovery. You are selling pieces of your future while prices are weak. That loss can quietly follow you for years. This is why a person with less savings but stronger guaranteed income can sometimes be in a better position than someone with a giant account balance and no income floor. One retiree is forced to pull from investments no matter what. The other can leave more of the portfolio alone when markets get ugly. Let that sink in. Bigger assets do not automatically mean better retirement. In some cases, they simply mean bigger responsibility, more decisions, more second-guessing, more opportunities to react emotionally at the wrong time. The $1 million myth has done real damage here. People hear that they need 1 million, 2 million, sometimes even more, and they quietly decide they are behind forever. They stop noticing what they already have. They ignore pensions. They underestimate Social Security. They overlook paid-off housing. They discount stability. But $1 million is not a retirement plan. It's a number. A large one, yes, but still just a number. If that number has to produce your income, absorb market shocks, fight inflation, cover health care, and calm your nerves, then it may feel much smaller than you imagined. Meanwhile, someone with a paid-off home, a pension, a thoughtful Social Security decision, and modest savings may already have what people with millions are searching for. Let me ask you something. Do you know what your monthly income will actually look like when you retire? Be honest with yourself, because that is where the real planning begins. Not with your total balance, with your monthly reality. What is coming in? What is going out? What changes if one spouse dies? What rises faster than you expect? What happens if your first 2 market years are bad? Most people never fully run that exercise. They run a dream version, a clean version, a version where expenses stay tidy, health stays manageable, and markets behave. But retirement is lived in the real world, where roofs leak, knees ache, relatives need help, and prices creep higher while you are busy living. Let's go back to Karen and Linda for a minute. Karen spent time before retiring mapping out her floor. Pension, Social Security, basic utilities, food, insurance, taxes. She did not obsess over every perfect detail. She just wanted to know what had to be covered before anything fun began. Linda focused mainly on the account total because that's what most advice trained her to do. And to be fair, she wasn't careless. She saved diligently. She invested consistently. She did what responsible people are told to do. But she never fully translated wealth into dependable monthly life. So when retirement began, Karen adjusted quickly. Linda hesitated. Karen knew what her money was supposed to do. Linda knew how much she had, but not always how it would feel. And that difference quietly shaped every decision. Now listen, this is especially important for couples. Survivor planning gets ignored far too often. Many households assume the bills will drop by half if one spouse is gone. Sometimes some expenses go down, but not by as much as people imagine. Housing costs stay, utilities stay, taxes stay, maintenance stays, and sometimes income drops faster than expenses do. Maybe one pension shrinks or disappears. Maybe one Social Security check goes away and only the larger benefit remains. That means the first 3 years of retirement are not just about today. They are about stress testing tomorrow's harder version too. Think about it like a safety net under a bridge. You hope you never need it, but if there is any gap in the bridge, that net matters more than your optimism. Survivor planning is not morbid. It is loving. It is practical. It is one of the clearest ways to care for each other. Here's something to think about. If you found out today that you're actually on track, how would that change your week? A lot of people would sleep better tonight. And that matters because fear distorts decisions. Fear makes you delay useful conversations. Fear makes you overreact to bad headlines. Fear makes you hoard when you could be living, or spend recklessly because planning feels hopeless anyway. The first 3 years are dangerous because fear and freedom arrive at the same time. You finally have the time you wanted, but now you also have to trust the structure holding that time up. If the structure feels vague, freedom doesn't feel relaxing. It feels unstable. That is why pensions deserve more respect than they usually get. People often treat a pension like background noise because it arrives as a monthly amount instead of a giant account balance. But if you had to buy that same guaranteed monthly income in the open market, the price would be far larger than many people realize. In other words, a pension can be quietly worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes more depending on the payment and survivor features. Yet retirees with pensions often compare themselves to people with bigger account balances and feel like they lost. That comparison is distorted from the start. Real data versus perceived data. That gap causes so much unnecessary pain. Perceived data says, I only saved $200,000, so I must be behind. Real data says, I also have a pension, Social Security, low housing costs, and a spouse benefit plan, which means my core life may be more secure than I think. That doesn't mean everyone is fine. Some people really are underprepared, but many others are not as broken as they feel. They are simply measuring themselves with the wrong ruler. I want to ask you something personal. Have you ever avoided opening your retirement statements because you were afraid of what you'd see? If you have, you are not strange. A lot of smart people do that. Because statements don't just show numbers. They trigger identity. They trigger regret. They trigger comparisons. They quietly pull up every decision you wish you had made differently. But avoidance creates fog. And fog is dangerous in the first 3 retirement years. When you cannot see clearly, you drift. You withdraw too much or too little. You delay claiming decisions. You forget to update beneficiaries. You assume expenses will somehow sort themselves out. They rarely do. Clarity does not mean perfection. It means you know where the pressure points are. It means you understand which bills are fixed and which ones fluctuate. It means you know how much of your income adjusts with inflation through COLA increases and how much stays flat while prices keep moving. That COLA piece matters. Cost of living adjustments sound boring until you realize they are one of the few built-in defenses many retirees have against rising prices. Social Security can adjust upward over time. Some pensions do not. Some annuity-style income sources do not. Many savings withdrawals certainly don't adjust themselves. So if your spending rises and part of your income stays flat, the squeeze quietly intensifies. Not in month 1. Not always in year 1. But over time, and often beginning in those first few years when you are still learning what retirement actually costs. Here's something most people never consider. Do you know the difference between what you need and what you want in retirement? That difference is everything. Need is the floor: housing, food, insurance, transportation, healthcare, utilities, basic taxes. Want is the layer above it: travel, extra gifts, nicer dining, more flexibility. None of those are wrong. They are wonderful. But confusion between the two creates anxiety. When you know your floor, you know what must be protected. When you know your wants, you know where you can flex without feeling like the entire plan is breaking. That alone can make the first 3 years feel less like a mystery and more like a controlled experiment. Here's the thing. Retirement is not one decision. It is a series of quiet decisions that build on each other. When to claim, how much to withdraw, whether to work part-time, how much cash to keep, when to help family, whether to downsize, whether to delay travel, whether to spend now or later. In the first 3 years, these choices feel heavier because you do not yet have proof. You have projections, you have hopes, you have assumptions, but lived experience has not caught up yet. That is why people who seemed confident before retirement can suddenly become hesitant after they stop working. And sometimes the opposite happens. Someone enters retirement scared, then discovers they are far steadier than they thought. Their bills are lower. Their pension feels stronger. Their Social Security check covers more than expected. Their life becomes simpler. Their fear begins to loosen. That is why you're not behind. In fact, you may already be standing on one of the strongest financial foundations available today. There's another trap in those first 3 years. People assume retirement spending moves in a straight line. It usually doesn't. Many retirees spend more at the beginning because they finally have time, energy, and a long list of delayed plans. That isn't failure, it's a pattern. But if you don't expect it, you can misread your own behavior and think the plan is broken when it's simply revealing itself. That early spending wave can include travel, dental work, home repairs, replacing an old car, helping family, or just enjoying normal weekdays in ways work never allowed. The danger is not spending. The danger is spending without noticing which costs are temporary, which are recurring, and which ones quietly become part of your new baseline. And one more thing gets missed. The first 3 years are when routines settle in. If your routine is built around worry, every headline feels louder. If your routine is built around clarity, bad news still matters, but it doesn't control your day. The structure you create early becomes the emotional tone of retirement. So before you chase a bigger number, protect the life you already built. A steady floor, a realistic plan, and a calm mind can carry you farther than a larger balance ever will. And that quiet confidence often separates a workable retirement from an exhausting one every single ordinary day. But you will not feel that strength if you only stare at a savings number. You have to translate your resources into life. You have to see how the pieces work together. You have to stop measuring yourself against people whose balance sheets look larger, but whose sleep may be worse. Let me ask you, have you ever compared your retirement plan to someone else's and felt behind? That feeling isn't always accurate. A neighbor may have more saved and less peace. A friend may have a smaller home and more freedom. A former coworker may still be working, not because they love it, but because their structure never got built. Appearances are noisy. Retirement security is often quiet. So what should you actually do if you are near retirement or already in that 3-year danger zone? First, map your income floor in plain English. Not finance language, plain English. Write down every reliable monthly source. Social security, pension, part-time work if it is truly dependable, anything stable. Then write your core expenses the same way: housing, insurance, utilities, groceries, medical, transportation, taxes. Keep it real. Not ideal, real. The goal is to see whether the floor covers the floor. If it does, your savings can work as support, not as the only engine. Second, test your plan against a rough first few years, not a perfect first few years. Assume inflation keeps creeping. Assume one surprise expense shows up. Assume the market gives you a bad year early. Assume one health cost is higher than expected. Not because pessimism is wise, but because realism is protective. It's not pessimism, it's realism. And in this case, realism isn't negative, it's empowering. Third, revisit your Social Security timing with your actual life in mind. Health, family history, marital situation, cash needs, work status, survivor benefits. Don't outsource this decision to slogans. The best claiming age is not universal. The best claiming age is personal. Fourth, if you are married, run the one spouse left scenario now, not later. What income remains? What expenses stay? Which pension options matter? Which accounts become more important? If that conversation feels uncomfortable, that is exactly why it needs to happen while both of you can still think clearly together. Fifth, create a spending plan for the first year that has room for joy without pretending every month will be identical. Retirement is not a prison sentence. The point is not to squeeze every dollar until life feels small. The point is to know what is safe enough that enjoyment does not automatically trigger panic. Quick check. Do you know your full retirement age for Social Security? Most people don't. And that tiny detail can shape thousands of dollars over time. Not because one age is magical, but because misunderstanding the rules creates avoidable mistakes. This is another reason the first 3 years matter. Mistakes made early tend to echo longer. You do not need to become a financial technician. You do not need a stack of color-coded spreadsheets 6 inches thick. But you do need clarity about the handful of decisions that quietly control the rest of the picture. Remember Karen and Linda. Karen did not win because she saved more. She didn't. She won because her structure matched her life. Linda did not lose because she was irresponsible. She wasn't. She struggled because abundance without structure still creates uncertainty, and uncertainty is exhausting. It follows you into ordinary moments: the grocery store, the pharmacy, the airport, the family dinner where somebody asks if you're traveling this summer. Financial stress in retirement is often invisible, but it is heavy. You carry it everywhere. Some things in life are heavy but invisible, like carrying a backpack all day. You get used to it, but your shoulders still ache. That is what poor retirement structure feels like. Not dramatic every second, just quietly draining, quietly shaping your choices, quietly stealing ease from years that were supposed to feel lighter. The good news is that structure can be improved, even after retirement starts. You can tighten spending awareness. You can adjust withdrawals. You can delay or coordinate claiming if you're still deciding. You can protect more income for a spouse. You can hold more cash if market volatility is making early withdrawals risky. You can simplify. And sometimes simplification is the breakthrough. Not more complexity, not more products, just a clearer understanding of what your money is supposed to do for you. Income first, stability second, flexibility third, growth where appropriate, but not at the expense of sleep. Because the goal isn't just to survive retirement. The goal is to enjoy it, to wake up on a Tuesday and not have your first thought be money, to say yes to lunch without secretly calculating market returns in your head, to help someone you love when it makes sense, to sit in your own living room and feel grounded instead of vaguely threatened by the future. That is why the 3-year danger zone deserves your full attention. Not because retirement is doomed, not because fear should run the show, but because the beginning matters. Early patterns become long patterns. Early mistakes can quietly compound. Early clarity can quietly change everything. So if you are approaching retirement, don't just ask how much have I saved. Ask what income will reliably show up. Ask what expenses are real. Ask what happens if inflation keeps creeping. Ask what happens if markets fall early. Ask what happens if one spouse is left carrying the plan alone. And if you are already retired, don't assume it's too late to improve the structure. It isn't. Many people find their footing after a shaky start. They adjust, they simplify, they learn what matters. They stop chasing abstract numbers and start building a life that actually feels sustainable. Retirement isn't about how much you've accumulated. It's about whether your income can support your life. If the system only rewards you with almost enough, you will spend your entire life chasing more. But if you understand your numbers, if you build your income, if you define your life on your terms, you don't chase anymore. You decide. And that's the shift from fear to clarity, from chasing to choosing, from not enough to enough. If this video helped you see your retirement in a new way, hit that subscribe button. I've got a lot more where this came from.